Anna here. Today we are going to look in every hook and cranny because you do not know where you are going to find that essential clue that is going to help you to uncover the whole operation. And the game that we're going to do this in is going to be Detective, a modern crime board game from Portal Games by Ignacy Trzewiczek. This huge hit at Essen 2018 is a game where you are going to be the investigators in America and you are going to try to solve cases along a campaign that lost 5 cases in total. I've played all of them, so I'm not only going to tell you what I thought about all of those cases, but also if I like the overall story. But first, I have to show you how you are going to investigate all of those cases, of course. So let's go to the explanation. At the beginning of the game, you are going to, of course, pick a case that you want to do, and everyone is going to pick an investigator that they want to be. Every investigator has their own special power, so that's something to look at when you're going to pick which investigator you want to be. All of the other investigators that have not been chosen are flipped to their consultant side, and then you're going to check which skills you have that you can use in the game to dig deeper and get more clues. As soon as you've done that, you are going to the Antares website and you're going to select the case that you are going to do. And then we are going to go to the casebook to read the introduction story. As soon as we are at that, we can see the other things that we have to do. So it's going to tell us to put the marker on 9 a.m. It is going to tell us how many of these authority tokens we have that we can use to do our special powers, and the goal of the case, of course, and is also going to tell us the time limit and the stress limit and some leads that we can follow now. When you're going to follow leads, a couple of things are important. First of all, the number. The number is going to tell you which card is going to contain that lead, and it is going to tell you what the location is that you have to be at to go to investigate that lead. When you are going to do this, you have to, of course, be on that location. And every time you go to a location, it's going to cost you 1 hour. As soon as you're at the location, you can do the card that you want to do. And it is also always going to give you a little flavor text. And it's also going to tell you how much time it is going to cost you to do that, to investigate that lead. And that you're going to, of course, do here. If you go past 4 p.m., you are going to get stress. And like I said, every case is going to have a stress limit. And when you go past that stress limit, you immediately have to stop investigating and you have to go on the Antares database to the final report. And the game is basically over for you. So the time and the story, and there are also some little things that you are going to be able to do. And that is mostly what's underneath the cards. So here we are able to dig deeper, and you are going to be able for skill token, to flip over the card and get more information if you feel like, I don't think this is the whole story, I think there's more to it. You can decide to spend that corresponding skill token and get more information. Sometimes the game is going to tell you to read a certain text. This you are going to do, of course, in the Antares database. And we have sometimes the game is going to give you further leads, like with this one. Those, of course, are very important. And these you have to write down so you remember, okay, these are things that we are now able to do, so you know what leads you have that you can do. Sometimes the game is going to give you, you have a revelation, and the game is going to give you extra coins with which you can do some new things. Another thing that you can do is access the Antares database. When you're going to access the entire database, you have different things. You have persons that you can look up, and those are always started with a name. And sometimes you have files, those start with files. Sometimes you're going to question people, those are start with questioning at. So if you're going to do the personal files, you of course click here on personal files, and then you see already it has already filled out name, and then you're just going to put down the name that you are allowed to look up now. Another thing that the game has is DNA. And as soon as you found some DNA or footprints, or in this case it's called signatures in the Antares database, you are going to put down the code of the signature that you got of the DNA, and you can add a description, and then it is added to your list of DNA or physical evidence that you have already gathered, and it's going to tell you if it matches with any of the previously found evidence that you have found. It is always very important to put these down because it's going to determine your score. Every time when you finish a day, you yourself can decide as a team when you want to finish the day. You are going to go to the next day, and then you start again in the headquarters and start with a new day, working day. Like I said, you can choose to work overtime, but you're going to get a stress token for that. And when you surpass that, you're going to be done. And also the game can also end when you have completed the time limit. So in this case, for this case, it would be a time limit of 4 days. So if you're in your last day, you're going to be done. And as soon as you're done, you are going to go to the Antares database and click on Final Report. In this final report, you're going to have to answer questions about what you've seen and what you've found out, and it is going to check how much physical evidence you found, and that is going to give you a final score and a final report of what actually happened. And that is actually the game going to be. So you're going to investigate those leads. And by investigating those leads, you're going to get information which you have to write down. And with that new information, you can investigate more leads. And sometimes you can choose to spend these skill tokens to make sure that you get all of the information that you need. And sometimes you get information that you can put into the Antares database. And that is going to be the game. First of all, the components. The components are great, just what you could have expected from Portal. Nothing really to say about them. But the thing that you're probably all wondering about, if it is also great, is of course the Antares website and database that they made specifically for this game. When a board game company makes something like that, it's always a little bit exciting to see, is it going to work or not, because they make board games and not websites, but they really did a great job here. The website feels very intuitive. I didn't encounter any bugs really, and it is very good incorporated into the game. They use a very clear system with words or category words, and then a code, and when you put that into the website, you immediately get the page that you are looking for. Also, if later in the game you're like, what was that text about, what was it saying again, it is pretty easy to find again on the website what the earlier file was that you want to look at. So everything is pretty easy to find everything again. Next to obviously the database, where you can find all the data or questionings and files and names, you also have the physical evidence part of the website, so the DNA and the footprints and stuff like that. And that is just getting some used to. Really remember to log every DNA, footprint, physical evidence that you find into the website, because your score is going to depend on that. And it just feels really, just feels stupid when in the end you did find all of those things, but because you didn't put them into the website, your score is going to, for the eternity of time, it's going to have 20 less points, and it's going to say that you're not a great investigator just because you forgot to put those codes in. So people don't forget to do that. The other cool thing is that you're allowed to look some things up on the internet. It clearly says when you're allowed to do that, and it's not like that happens too many times, because that was something that I was worried about. It was like, yeah, is this really going to feel like a game when the whole internet is available to you? No, they're very specific when you can look certain things up, and it's not really necessary information, but it's just fun information to make the theme and the story come to life even more, and make it even more cool what you're doing, and give it really that feeling that it is just happening in the here and now, and it's just an everyday story, and it's not some fancy story that they made up. It is something that's really happening, and that I think is really cool, that they were able to not only make the website but also incorporate Google and all of these other things into the game. That just gives it a really, really real feeling, like this is really happening. The cool thing also is that they made sure that every case feels different. Like I said, you have 5 cases, and there is an overarching storyline, but in every case you are doing something different, and the rules also change a little bit depending on what scenario or what the case that you are playing. And I think that's really cool, because also that gives it just that standalone feeling, and that you also don't only see it as a whole campaign, but also as separate cases that you were working on, and where you had to, because every time you have to solve something else, and that just gives it more of a feeling also of that you accomplished something. And I really like that they made sure that every scenario feels unique. Normally with games that Ignacy makes, there are a lot of rules, but this game actually has almost no rules. It is mostly just about the story, and everything is very clear actually, and there's nothing, there are almost no rules. It's just like, let's just start and play the game. I actually played this game also with other people during the scenario, so I did not play with the same people from beginning to end. And that was of course, they still wanted to know what the overarching storyline was, but it was an enjoyable experience for them. So if you're thinking about letting people drop in and drop out, that is really an okay thing to do, and they're going to have fun. It is though important that one person did play all of the cases, because he or she then can tell to the new player what the storyline was until then. That is an important thing to do, so they get What do you think he just did? I don't know why I have a cat anymore. So that overall storyline is very important, and you are going to get a lot of information. It is going to feel like an information overload. So this is not a game, take it from me, because I tried, where you are going to be able to go like, I remember the hair color of that person, because you will not. There are going to be 10 different people that are relevant, and where you have to remember the hair color. So it is important to write everything down. I had those special headshots that they also have as a promo, and I really enjoyed playing with them. But just make sure that you make mind maps and that you write everything that you think is important down, and that you talk with each other. A thing that this game has is a lot of text. Not everything is relevant. There's also a lot of flavor text. And if you like reading that, and you like really to get really into the story, then you are going to have a great time. Just remember, if you're going to read all the flavor text, you are going to have a longer gaming session. So something that I did is someone read the text, and after that they just first summarized the flavor text, and after that they were going to tell us the real information. So you still got something of story, but it didn't bog the game down. But if you are a player that really wants to immerse them in the game, then this is going to be a game that you really are going to like, because there is a lot of immersion in the game, and they really made sure that the world is going to live, not only because it is in the real world, but also because they really made the characters alive. All of the characters that you also come across in the game, even the clerk that is going to help you, is going to have their own names, their own little thing that they do. They are going to get information about them. So there is a lot of immersion in this game. Next to the fact that there is a lot of information, it is also important to note that not everything is going to be handed to you on a silver platter. In this game, there is not always going to be a line that's going to explain everything. No, you really have to actively think of ideas and theories how you think something happened. Though there's a lot of deduction in the game, and you really have to make your own theories and put all of the clues together and think what you think really happened. Something that bugged me a little bit out is, I do like it. I'm totally fine with that, don't get me wrong. But something that I didn't really like was the fact that at the end of I really loved the storyline. I really loved the overall storyline. But at the end, I just still had a lot of questions. And I would have liked to see if some of those questions had been answered. Because now it did feel a little bit random. And of course, I only did this for you guys. I looked at all of the cards to see if we missed something, and it was just really a case of you had to think of this theory, and that was going to be the overall theory. And at the end of the game, in the final report, because in every case you're going to have a final report, there wasn't really an ending, or you heard what eventually happened, but there wasn't really an explanation to why it had happened. And I just really had liked if it was a little bit more closed, and I was not left with that many questions. And so that was something that bugged me a little bit, and I had probably 2 sleepless nights because I still wanted to know why this, why that, and what was this, and I just really had loved to see some of those questions answered. So overall, I really love this game. It is going to give you a very immersive experience. It feels so real. The overarching storyline is very cool, and it really feels like you are doing something and just not just playing around, and that just gives it this very, very immersive experience, and like you really are detectives and are trying to figure all of this out. So if you really want a detective game that is going to give you a lot of immersion, and also as a cool feature is going to give you the ability to look things up on the internet with multiple cases. They are also coming out with more cases than just the case that we have now. Then I think Detective is really the game for you. I really enjoyed it, and I definitely recommend you trying it out, and that is going to be Detective, a modern crime board game.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at dicetower.com.